When does the fantasy start?
The revelation of the night before, still fresh in your mind, you sink into the luxuriously soft mattress and feel the tension seep out of your body, wicked away by the material trappings of the wealthy family whose beds you sleep in. They see that deep sleep allows your brain to process your waking worries, straighten your thoughts. This is what makes you dream, and the dreams you have this night remind you of the first night you were together, huddled in Garri's hut, half a world away. Nyla, you dream of the trees, of running, through the forest side by side with your brother, laughing with the easy joy of youth. You look back to tease him for being slow, only to find you are alone. You look up and see the sky as a painted ceiling, the trees stone imitations. The light fades and a body of a man lies before you. You watch as a sprout grows from his back, its flowers illuminating the stone floor that cracks as plant life overtakes it. The flower gets brighter, and the dark room is overtaken by life. The ceiling crumbles, and you see the moon. Garri, you dream once more of birdsong. It surrounds you and guides you forth. Forgetting your pain and injuries, you break through from the tree line and charge across the grassland, glorying in the sun beating down on your back. As you run, the grass turns to salt beneath your hooves, and the sun gets hotter and hotter. Soon you are slowing, the sun getting too hot to bear. Stopping, you stand, your bones and muscles cracking and twisting to allow for the new form. Scanning the horizon, you see you are the first. Your cousins have not yet arrived. You drop to one knee and begin to push away the salt, working to reveal the huge stone slab carved with runes hidden below the surface. Grandall, you open your eyes and find yourself in a small room, comfortable but small. Across from you sits an elegant woman in a green dress with red hair. She smiles at you, and you feel at ease. She gestures to a table between you, and on it lies 3 items: a dagger, a compass, and a box. The box you recognize, and as you do it fades away. You look up at the elf and see her face has turned hard, the smile gone. "The price paid was not the one asked for," she says. "These are yours. One will lead you, the other." Elias, darkness surrounds you. Warm white light flashes before you, growing closer and closer. You stand transfixed. There is knowledge and power in the light. To allow it to strike you would be like a bolt of insight. You know this in your soul. Then, as it reaches you, the lightning stops, its steady progression towards you interrupted by a voice. A woman's voice. You can just make it out. It's distant but familiar. It grows louder and you realize it is Mistress Morgana. She shouts to you out of the dark. "Be careful, Elias. The red shadow falls on Bridgeton. Find Esther. She can lead you out west and up the river. You must reach the city before..." A peal of thunder drowns out the last words. A scream pierces the morning, tearing you all from your dreams with a jolt. Looking out of the windows, you see a hawk sat in the courtyard. Theo rushes out of the front door and retrieves the message from the holder on the hawk's back. After reading it, he quickly retrieves a scroll from his robes and replaces it in the case, clicking it shut and motioning for the hawk to leave. As it does, it lets out a final screech, which chases away the last of your sleep. And so it's morning.
So you said... sorry, just to clarify, because I wrote Red Shadow Falls on Riften, which is from Skyrim, Bridgeton.
No, Bridgeton.
And then I got really confused as to where we were and what you said. Bridgeton.
Be careful, Elias. The red shadow falls on Bridgeton. Find Esther. She can lead you out west and up the river. You must reach the city before...
Yeah.
No, there was a...
Yeah, I got the rest of that. It was the Riften bit that threw me.
So you all feel like your dreams were unfinished, like the hawk like woke you up before the dreams finished.
Isn't that always the way?
So there was you kind of you know what I mean. It was like you were jolted awake before you had the chance to kind of see the culmination of the dream.
I'm sorry as well, Jack. I started writing things down while you're still saying things. Did you say the box was missing?
Yes. So dagger compass box. As you recognise the box, it fades away.
What was the last thing you said to me, Jack? Because I was writing so slowly.
I said, so body lies before you, watch the sprout grows from its back, flowers illuminating the stone floor that cracks as plant life overtakes it, the flower gets brighter and the dark room is overtaken by life, the painted ceiling crumbles and you see the moon.
That's it.
Did you say it was my cousins?
Yeah, your cousins have not yet arrived.
Do you have hooves?
He did in
I
his
did
dream.
have hooves.
When Jack said it, I was like,
Do Scorns have hooves?
He's a satyr.
No, Scorn do not have hooves.
So, Jack, when I wake up, I want to have a look
Yes,
at my leg. What's up with my leg? Is it looking...
Oh yeah, it's nasty.
Is it infected?
nasty.
Is it...
No, well, you don't think it is based on your knowledge of medicine. But it's just the same as it was yesterday. It's just, it still hurts. It's still not very nice. It's bandaged up, obviously, pretty well from Elias. But you just need...
I believe Malachi also had a look.
Needs time to launch. Oh yeah,
And
Malachi.
he gave me some stuff to treat
I
it
mean,
with, so it should be fine.
Yeah, it's doing fine. It's just obviously not quite healed yet.
I just need I need a long rest, basically.
I mean, you actually, that technically speaking, that is what you need. You need to have a long rest for the injury to move up to subside.
And also, what about my, I guess, smoke inhalation? Because I've lost a point of strength as well.
Me too, man.
Yeah,
Me too.
Every long rest you have, you can regain. So all your injuries go away on a long rest, and actually, it's a number of long rests, I think. But it's a number of months. The injury is a number of months, which I said was 3 months if Elias was looking after you. So that's less to do with the long rest.
Right.
Because I said it was, or was it 3, and then it was Elias looking after you, so it ended up being a month and a half.
Yeah, it was like a month, I think. It didn't end up being 3 months.
Yeah. So it's definitely on the mend, but it's still got a ways to go. The con loss and the strength loss, you can regain one of those back every long rest, is how I'm doing that, because normally it would be a magic thing to give them back as far as the rules are concerned, but there's no such thing as that.
Yeah.
So you're just going to get them back slowly over time, same as getting luck back.
Okay.
I
need some luck as well.
do some pull-ups, Mark. You'll get your strength back.
I need some...
I've just rolled the dice, and you need 2 days of rest. So you only need one more day, and then you can have a long rest. That will be, if you have another day of no combat, that will be a long rest because you are safe at the moment.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
And if we do have a combat, that pushes it back another day, right?
Cool.
Nice.
I guess I'll go down for breakfast if there is breakfast being served. If not, I'll just kind of hang around downstairs.
Yeah, there's some pastries on the table for you to help yourself.
Yeah.
Continental breakfast.
Ooh, fancy.
What's everybody else doing?
I was just going to ask Jack, the dagger in the dream, what was it like? Was it like a dwarf dagger or like an elven dagger or what?
It looked elven in nature. It was like a kind of a two-bladed, like a two-sided, like not two-bladed, like a double-edged dagger, so like an athame almost, rather than like a knife, if that makes sense, which is only bladed on the one edge.
And the compass?
And the compass was kind of like a metal, like almost like a copper, kind of that coppery colour that the orb is. They were both made out of that metal.
The dagger as well?
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Well, when Nyla wakes up, she'll wipe the tears from her eyes, having seen Sun in her dreams. And hug Bear, because I imagine that he has taken over half the bed at least. And she'll sort of just rest on him and feel him breathe for a little while, and then wash her face and pull herself up to her her height, her full height, her real height. She'll pull herself up to seem like she's okay, and then she'll go down for breakfast.
Cool. Elias?
It's breakfast time.
Lovely. So, as you all kind of get up and end up at breakfast almost at the same time, so you'll kind of arrive in the breakfast room or the dining room at the same time, and as you do so, you will notice Theo is stood by a fire, and there's some parchment in it, burning away. He greets you cheerily. Like, morning, guys!
That's perfect.
Morning.
Did you sleep well?
Yeah, really well, thanks. The comfy beds.
The beds here are absolutely amazing, aren't they?
They are pretty. They're much better than my bedroll. I'll tell you that much. What are you doing? You burning documents here? Hey?
Going off the grid.
We've all been there. Oh.
Just standard order protocol. You know, we can't leave our stuff lying around, no matter how mundane they are.
I get it. Oh, yeah, nice pastries and that in it. But what's the plan for today then? Are you gonna like kill these people or what? Is that the plan?
I mean, I'm not going to be killing anybody. I'm personally content letting them just die. I don't agree with the whole thing, but I'm not really getting involved. That's for Catelyn to decide, seeing as she is obviously the magic user here. I have some business to attend to, so I will be out for most of the day, so I'll leave you all to it. Anyway, I have to go. So I will see you, unless you need anything from me before I do, anything from the house, anything from the kitchen.
Where's Catelyn?
Oh, she's in the study already. She had breakfast this morning. She got up super early. Chomping at the bit as always.
Yeah.
I don't know, Gary's like, she's really got a bit in her mouth and she's really chomping on it.
Well, you have a nice day anyway, and we'll see you later on, yeah?
And you. Remember, stay out of the east,
And also,
stay out of the west quarter.
wash your hands, eh? Hey?
Exactly. Always.
We had all these jokes last time, guys. We can't keep doing them.
Toodles. And he just kind of disappears out of them. Not disappears, just in a puff of smoke he vanishes. Poof, and he's gone. He just kind of walks away. Retrieves a bag from the hall, throws it over his shoulder, and walks in the direction of town.
Can someone remind me what the outcome of our snooping was in terms of the bottles which have been switched?
So you discovered that so what you think is that it looked like, from what you saw and what Elias looked at, it looked like Theo was tampering with stuff in the study to prevent Catelyn's research from progressing in regards to explosives. Like, he was changing the labels so that when she combined ingredients, they would be inert rather than explosive.
That's right.
That's what you kind of gathered from the what you could make out, because her notes were appalling.
So in which case, after Theo is gone, and after a few seconds to make sure he's definitely gone, I'm going to turn to Elias. Elias, do you think we should tell Catelyn what happened?
I'm not quite sure, but I think maybe someone should follow Theo, see what he's up to.
I can do that.
I'll follow him. I'm pretty incognito.
me and Nyla broke into the study last night, Grandall, and after Nyla saw Theo tampering with the experiments.
Fairly disappointed in you, to be honest. I mean, you broke into somewhere and you didn't even invite me.
Yeah, what's the deal? I like breaking
I mean,
into places.
I would have invited all of you, but no offense, Gary, but I thought that maybe a smaller group would be less suspicious. And two, Grandall, I didn't invite you because Elias obviously has knowledge of magic, and I thought that maybe,
I understand.
Oh, well.
So you want me to follow Theo about town?
Yeah,
and
I think that would be
who he talks
idea.
to, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I follow straight after him, doing my best not to be seen.
Cool. Give me stealth.
Ah, 4.
Nice.
Great success.
Nice.
Where'd he go?
You like fully Assassin's Creed it. You're like just walk into the crowd.
he jumps
and
into
just part of the
into a
crowd.
hay bale.
Yeah. He goes to
No,
the top
I
of the
just
building and then
I
just
hire a
swan
group of
dive.
4 prostitutes, and then all
Oh
of a
my
sudden
god, I
you
love
just
that.
can't see me.
Get some courtesans, quick.
So yeah, I will deal with that in a moment.
Absolutely.
What are those people who are still in the house doing?
I'm going to have a very quick bite to eat, and then I'm going to go join Catelyn.
Lovely. Nyla and Garri, what are you planning on doing today?
Can we have like a secret adventure like you and Elias said? Because I'm feeling a bit left out now, Nyla.
Actually, yes. That I was going to ask you, Gary. When I saw Theo talking in the study, he was talking to the captain of the guard.
Oh, right.
No, a lieutenant.
Yeah, the lieutenant of the guard, and he said some things I could manage to lip read what they were talking about, but it might be good for us to go and investigate that.
Oh, that sounds fun. Yeah, all right. Let's do that.
Nyla and Gary on an adventure.
Friends forever.
So, Elias, you can quite happily find your way to the study. Catelyn is already in there, kind of looking at stuff, like reading her papers and kind of looking at what she's in the middle of, and almost I think it looks like she's trying to find her place again in kind of the bit she's doing. And she doesn't hear you come in.
Before I go in, I want to cast a spell.
Oh,
I want to cast... Nothing, don't get too excited. I want to cast Arcane Aegis on myself. And it's only because if she's
Okay.
going to be fucking about with explosives, I want a safeguard.
Yep.
What does Arcane Aegis do, Joe?
It creates a hovering disc of force that phases in and out of existence as needed. It will act as a shield, but the main reason I want it is I can use it to negate any one damage effect against me.
Ooh.
As per the item shield. And it's 7 hours that lasts for.
cool. Do you take Dark Ninja
Shit,
Magic?
forgot about that. 13.
Just summon the
No.
demon.
Do you
Fine.
have to say the magic, the damage you got?
Can you imagine?
Sorry, Jack. I was going to say, does he have to decide the type of damage he's going to evade when he casts it?
No, so it's an instance of a damaging effect. He like prevents a damaging effect
You-
from
you
hurting
can-
him. So like if in the next 7 hours something explodes or he gets shot with an arrow, he can just be like.
You can do that with the shield. If you had a shield equipped, you can use the shield to negate one harmful effect. It
Is
just
that per day?
no, it destroys the shield, but you can actually use it to negate the effects of a dragon's breath weapon or anything like that. Like
Shields are super powerful,
Fragile.
but they do get destroyed.
That's cool, though.
yeah. So the idea is as if she fucks something up because I'm not that confident in her powers, to be honest. So.
Fair enough.
And I will exhale, I will smile, and I will walk in the room.
She doesn't notice.
Okay. Then my feigned pleasantry was wasted.
For naught.
I'll just observe her for a bit, try and figure out what she's up to.
She kind of looks like she has no idea where she left off the day before, and she's kind of like working through her papers, and then she kind of goes, there we go, and she kind of pulls something that's kind of halfway down a pile, and like pushes them others, some of them fall onto the floor, and she just kind of waves her hand at them absent-mindedly as if she's like, I don't really give a shit, and she kind of props it up against like a test tube full of like this kind of brackish water, and then starts making notes on another scrap of paper that she produces from a pile of like she's got one of those those spikes with paper on. She's got one of those full of like blank sheets of parchment. She pulls one of those off the top of that and starts like writing like down notes about something. Obviously, you don't know what. And then she picks up the 2 vials that are the ones that you noticed yesterday, that had been swapped, that Nyla saw had been swapped. And she picks them both up. She does a little kind of tentative, kind of happy dance almost, and she kind of does a little ooh, kind of excited, tense, and then she pours one into the other and kind of jerks back away from it. And then when anything happens, she's like, "Oh, for God's sake!" And she puts them down and she starts writing. And she takes the other piece of paper that she kind of put up onto one side and she starts crossing things out and making notes and drawing lines from the piece of paper that she had before and onto the new piece of paper, and draws a line, 3 lines in the top corner, and then starts writing notes around the notes from the first piece of paper. And you kind of think that maybe her system is that she draws lines to match them up again. It's almost like she's... Give me intelligence.
It's a 6, which great success.
Yeah, you actually, now having seen this, you think that her disorder is on purpose? That she is, she's doing it because it means that it's harder to kind of read what she's doing and follow what it is she's doing.
Okay.
And the lines on the corners of the page that she's kind of drawing, she kind of what I mean is she kind of puts 2 pieces of paper slightly overlapped, draws lines across them so that if you then move them apart, you could line them back up based on those marks. And you think that maybe that's her way of kind of tracking her train of thought. Okay. Which is really weird and very overly backhanded almost. But that's what it seems like to you based on observing her for the little time you have. She seems very disheartened by the fact that this didn't do anything. This what she thought was going to happen, and and I think that's kind of the point at which she then kind of hears you.
Yeah, I'll clear my throat to get her attention.
And she kind of goes, Elias, you're awake. I've just started on some of my my personal research, but we can move on to the issue with the infected peoples, if you would so like.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So what is it you're actually working on there?
Well, I probably would ask you actually for some advice. I understand that that your master Tackett is particularly gifted in the chemical arts in terms of his research, and that's something I've been studying recently to try and broaden my my horizons and my knowledge. But I just can't seem to make any of the reactions that are written in kind of most of the accepted works of chemical kind of concoctions. I can't seem to get any of them to work. I prepared the formulas yesterday, and then I left them to kind of sit overnight, as is indicated, to almost infuse them, I suppose. And then this morning, when I mixed them together, there should have been a reaction. Small explosion, a pop, but nothing. I don't know what it is that I'm doing wrong. There's not so much as a fizz.
So talk me through what it was that you prepared yesterday, and maybe I could help you out with that.
Yeah, okay. So she starts kind of going through she kind of pulls out kind of the only book that's in the whole study, and you notice that it's actually one of the ones that Tackett uses quite a lot in the works you did with him when you were training. And she flicks to a page, and it's kind of what she's looking at and what she's trying to achieve is basically day one stuff that you did. You've been making these concoctions, and they're kind of they're like a liquid version of a in like what those called, the little banger pellet
Yeah.
things that you like throw on the floor and they explode. It's kind of like that, and it's just it's like a really basic chemical formula that she should be able to recreate without any effort at all. And she kind of talks you through what it is she's done, and everything she explains that she did is absolutely correct, and it should have worked. But obviously, you know that the reason it hasn't worked is
So
because
in
it's
the
tampered.
beakers that were tampered with, is there any of the solution left in any of them?
So the labels were
Yeah,
swapped.
but-
So she actually, a couple of labels were swapped. So yeah, you could, one of them has got a bit of solution left in it, and the one that she should have poured that into is still full.
Because what I want to do is go to the solutions that I know have been mixed. I want to kind of like, have a look at them, swill them round, have a sniff, to kind of, make it out as if I've figured out that they're the wrong way round. But obviously just,
Yeah.
But obviously if they're empty, then...
No. So there's that she's poured a bit of one in. So let's say there's 1, 2, and 3. She's poured a bit of 2 into 1, but 1 and 3 were swapped. So she should have been pouring 2 into 1, but it's now she should be pouring 2 into 3 to get the effect she's expecting. Like, so the one that was marked as 1 originally is now marked as 3, and that is what would cause the reaction. And the one that was marked as 3 originally but is now marked as 1 is the neutralizing agent. So she's just added something into an inert solution, which is a neutralizing agent, rather than into the thing that would make it have a reaction. So yeah, you can absolutely do that based on your knowledge, and because it's something you have a lot of experience in, I'm not even going to make you roll for it because she has no experience in this. So it's going to be pretty easy for you to make it look like you're just... Because actually, even if you didn't know what had happened, it would not be hard for you to figure out what had happened because you know that...
Yeah, I'll talk her through it, and I'll from the things that I can tell from the smell, colour, etc., I'll talk her through the process and add the right solution to the right vial to get the reaction she was
there's
after.
A little pop. There's a little pop and a puff of smoke. The smoke just kind of hangs in the air and just sits just above the beaker in like an almost perfect like circle, like orb, and then dissipates after a moment, which is the reaction you expected. This is sometimes used as a kind of almost like a flashbang, like signal flare type thing. So it causes a large if you have like a big version of it, you would throw it on the ground and it would cause a large explosion and then cause this kind of this orb of smoke to rise, which would then be like a signal for like armies and stuff, which is the reason why Tackett creates them and stuff for the militia and stuff to use in the city, so people can, it's almost like, come to this location, something's happening, is what they're used for.
Cool. It seems like you just had the solutions labelled incorrectly.
She looks at you as if you have just, like, walked on water. Like, she cannot comprehend how you've just walked in here and just done that. As a person that hasn't even been tested yet, hasn't even been named a master, hasn't been, as far as she's concerned, hasn't proven themselves because you haven't like got anything to show for your like robes. One thing actually, as I mentioned robes a minute, is so obviously as we kind of touched on briefly, the color of the robe indicates kind of the level and abilities and what it is that the person has. But the robes that you wear specifically, they are red robes, kind of pale red, but they are edged, so you have a grey like cuff around it and a kind of, the like the edge where the crossover is on the front. That's like a grey edge, and that's what marks you as being an apprentice, so that anyone can kind of see that you're an apprentice if they are also a magic user or an order monk, for instance, they would know you're an apprentice. So that's something that I think we haven't really touched on because you hadn't really met like that many magic users at this point. There's been like a couple, but this just seems like a good time to say that. But yeah, and she just cannot believe it, and she kind of starts making notes, and she kind of, you see her making notes about like the liquids themselves, so that she can identify them, as you kind of mentioned, because obviously she's relying on remembering which vial is which and the label she puts on them, but she's now kind of making notes on this. This is what this looks like, smells like, etc. Which is obviously good, because you actually taught her something. So congratulations, you taught her how to make one of those flare bombs.
Does it mean I have an apprentice now? Oh.
Because she is already a
Okay.
master.
Because I almost wrote it on my character sheet, but... So, should we get started?
She kind of says, I would much rather spend the day doing this with you, if I'm being honest. But I suppose we have a duty to those people to stop their suffering.
Well, if we smash this out quick enough, we can go back to your original work.
Yes, it's a good idea. And she kind of heads over to a different section of the greenhouse, sunroom cum laboratory, where there's quite a lot of herbs growing, and she starts kind of pulling papers out, and she starts going through the different herbs and like flowers she's got that she has made notes of that have like poisonous properties. And essentially, you can spend some time with her figuring out the best way to, like, give this to people and the most, and like kind of work out. I'll give you like a medium difficulty in like a check. Like you can do some apothecary checks to see. So if you can do 4 successes before 3 fails. You can help her to create something that can be used, and that will take probably just about half the day.
I know I just said we were going to smash this out, but what we are planning on doing is it needs to be done correctly, so I am not going to rush this in any way, shape, or form. This
no,
is,
that's fine. But I mean, it will take the at least half the day to figure out what you're going to then mass produce, I suppose. And to work out, so do you have a particular way that you think, as a player, I suppose, and a character, that you would want to do it? So have you got like a, do you want it to be a liquid? Do you want it to be an air, like, carried? Do you want it to be, how quickly do you want them to die? That sort of thing. I assume you want it to be painless.
Painless. I think it needs to be ingested. I think to be able to control the substance a bit better and kind of the application and who actually... Obviously, we don't want this going rogue. So I don't think an airborne is that sensible.
That makes sense. Yeah, of course, that's fine. So yeah, give me some apothecary checks, and that can kind of represent you and her working on that together throughout.
Well, that's a 13, so that's a success. That's a 16, which is just a success. That's an 11, success. And a 4, which is a great success.
Cool, and that counts as 2. So you, so you can quite easily, it takes, like I said, most of the day, but you can quite easily create a method of poison to be able to administer this, probably in the form of some sort of food, to be added to some sort of food that can then be kind of handed out to the infected, which will...
Yeah, I'd quite like it to have kind of a relatively short kind of, what's the word? Like shelf life?
Yeah.
I don't want to create something that...
Yeah, so it'll... If they don't eat it for like a day, then it'll just be inert. Yeah, that's fine. You can do that. That's not a problem. So you've just created essentially a biological weapon.
Nice.
And on that note, we will move across to Grandall. Speaking of biological weapons, it's Grandall.
What now?
Well, you're a weapon of mass thievery.
Okay.
And you're technically biological. I guess that's what he's getting at.
Yeah, I mean, can you argue with this? No. I mean, you can, but should you? Probably.
Am I going to? No.
Cool, yeah, so Grandall, we you follow Theo with relative ease. He's not kind of trying to be shady about anything. He does a couple of chores. He kind of buys some stuff from the market, some bread and some meat. He kind of stops to talk to a couple of people. He pops into the blacksmith at one point, but doesn't actually come out with anything. And then kind of about probably about an hour after you've been following him and he's kind of been making the rounds through town, he begins to head towards the bridge. It's a little bit harder for you to kind of follow him into the bridge because obviously it's kind of a controlled area. But give me another stealth roll.
Okay, that's a 17, which is not very good. I'm going to use my reroll,
Ooh.
and that is a 4, which is a great success. Much better.
Perfect, which is what you needed. So, with a great success, you can manage to kind of slip past the guards as well, like whilst he's moving, after he's gone into there. And after not too much problems, you kind of spot him, and he's heading towards the guardhouse. He goes in to where you know that the office of the what's his name? Guard captain is, and obviously he's kind of gone in there. Do you want to kind of try and find a way to be able to listen in on the conversation? What you're going to do?
What kind of building is it?
So it's you kind of in, just as a reminder, as the architecture of the actual bridge itself. It's like a dwarven build. It's like a mall, as you kind of described, I think, last time, with kind of rows of buildings down each side, and so you've got a kind of big stone building that's the guardhouse and the captain's office, if you will. His office is kind of the first building, a first room in the building, so he can like look out onto the street outside, if you will, of like kind of the inside of the bridge. So it's kind of it's quite easy to see into the room. It's obviously just like it's a big old stone building essentially, with a glass window and a door that goes into the office, as well as a door that goes into a hallway. So you can go straight in from the street to the guard captain's room, but you can also go into the guardhouse as well, and there's another door into his office from inside the building, if that makes sense.
In that case, I'd like to go in through the way that leads into the rest of the guardhouse and listen into the guard captain's office through the external door to push my ear up against it.
Yep, you can. It's actually not that busy. You can hear a bit of a commotion happening, like outside the front, as it were, across the other side of the bridge, like where you came in, and it seems like a lot of people are kind of someone is trying to force their way on into the bridge. So a lot of the guardmen seem to be distracted, and you can get in and give me a detection, I think.
Dear. That is an 18, which is a fail.
You can kind of hear Theo talks very loudly, and so you can hear him, but you can't actually hear what is being replies. What is the replies are coming? So you can hear Theo, and it kind of almost the same as what Nyla had like before. You get like snatches of it almost, and the kind of the key things that you can hear are. I understand that you have, and then you miss a bit, held, and then the guard captain kind of says something, and then you hear kind of, there's like silence, but like movement, like muffled movement, and then more of the guard captain talking, and then you hear Theo again say, arrived this morning, and then another bit of, you've lost a little bit, and then he says, in your interests to cooperate, and then you hear more movement, and the other door opens.
Yep.
and then that's kind of you can see Theo through the window in the door that comes into this hallway, kind of walk past, going back towards town again.
Okay, so would I know if the guard captain is going to keep someone somewhere? Would I know where that would be? Like, would that be in this building, for instance?
So you didn't come through here when you travelled down south, because you went a different way because you wanted to stay away from the peak.
Yeah.
But in most guardhouses in the city, there is normally a holding cell in kind of the basement, which seems unlikely here because it's on a bridge, but that's where you assume it would be. If it was going to be anywhere, if it was like a normal situation, that's where it would be.
Okay. Can I determine where that might be in this particular building based on my knowledge of dwarven architecture?
Give me general lore.
Haha! That is a 2, which is a great success. Haha.
Wow. Okay, you were going to need a great success for that, so that's what you got. Essentially, dwarven architecture. The dwarves don't build bridges very often. They haven't got much cause for it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The only bridges they do make are huge things that go from kind of mountain peak to mountain peak. That kind of allows people to kind of get out into the sun. For like, and they normally have like gardens across them. For like growing specific herbs that they can't grow underground. And there's like a very specific sect of dwarves that kind of tend to them. They're almost the closest thing that dwarves have to magic users, in most cases. And you know that...
Dwarven druids.
Yeah, kind of. And you know that in one instance of these bridges that have been built in the Hollow Range, the very southernmost one, there is actually a prison incorporated into the bridge, and essentially the cells are like cages underneath the bridge, kind of like the sky cells in the Eyrie, but like big metal kind of wrought cages with like a floor and then kind of barred sides that you kind of get dropped into. And you're like, that's the only thing you can think might be here, which would mean they would kind of be over the river.
So, do I think I'd be able to get down to... Do I think I know where I'd be able to go to get down to the cages?
You think you probably could find... You would think that they would be a way down in this building.
Then I do that.
Cool, yeah. Give me a detection and a stealth.
Okay, detection, that is a 12, which I don't think is... Oh, no, wait, that is a success. And stealth, that is a 7, which is a great success, again.
Excuse me. Cool, so yeah, you manage to find it. It takes a little time, and you have a very close shave at one point with a guard who opens a door. And you do that really kind of comical thing where you're like crouched in front of him, and then someone says something behind him, and he turns around, and you manage to kind of move a bit further down the hallway. But you were it was like, oh, you were like, oh my god. But then you managed to find a set of stone stairs right down the other end of the corridor. Like they're kind of tucked in behind the stairs up, which is kind of a logical place to find them, but you almost wouldn't expect them to be there because it's on a bridge. And you can find your way down into the cells. And I'm going to pause you there, and I'm going to jump back to to Nyla and Garri. So you guys were going to head to speak to the town guard.
Well, I don't think, from what I remember, I don't think I recognised who he was, but I knew that he was a guard. But if I did recognise him, that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, you didn't. You just knew it was he. I think Theo referred to him as lieutenant.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Which I think is why you knew he was a lieutenant, potentially.
Yeah, I'll take Garri back to the guardhouse and
excuse me. Sorry.
find the lieutenant.
No, it's just Is this someone you saw last night on your secret mission?
It wasn't so much a secret mission, Gary, as a sort of I accidentally saw Theo and this person.
Accidentally had an adventure. I get it. Would you say then that because we're going to go speak to him now, that this is now like the sequel to the adventure? Would you say that like it's as important, if not more important, than the adventure you had without me last night?
I think that this may be the thing which cracks the case wide open.
No way. Oh, all right. I'm excited now.
And as Nyla looks at Gary, she's just gonna turn her head, and in her head, she's gonna be like, "God, I love Gary."
Well, let's go.
Yeah, cool. So you head to the bridge. It's you're not surprised by you get there. There's a commotion going on at the front. Actually, no, ignore that. So you get to the bridge, and it all seems kind of normal. There's guards milling about here, there, and everywhere, and you are let in without too much of an issue. They kind of recognise you, and you kind of you arrived yesterday. You were with a magic user. Word travels fast in a small town. Well, not that this is a small town, but word travels faster in big towns. And you can make your way down to the guard house.
Okay.
Without too much issue. Are you looking for the specific guard that you saw last night?
Well, if I know he's a lieutenant, he'd probably have an office or something, so I would probably ask where the lieutenant's office is.
Just a random person, like not a random guard
I
when
don't
you
know,
get
is
there?
Annie Potts there? Because that's the only person I trust to tell me where to go.
But they haven't got a receptionist. They're not important enough to have.
Oh yeah, sorry, Annie Potts is from Call of Cthulhu. I forgot about that.
They're not important enough to have a receptionist. Unfortunately.
In which case, I'll ask an officer, someone I can see who looks not too busy, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of guys just kind of stood having a fan.
Oh yeah, perfect. In which case I'll go, excuse me, I'm wondering if I can see the lieutenant?
He kind of looks at you blankly and then says, "Oh, sorry, you were talking to me. Yeah, if you just go in this door here," and he points to the kind of door into the corridor, and says, "First door on the left. Should be in there. They're always in there. Don't do any work."
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks, mate. And as we walk away, I want to turn to Nyla and be like, "Nyla, what's our plan here? Like, we're just going to go in and what we planning on saying
So
to him?"
I'm gonna. I can imagine I would have filled Gary in a little bit on what I thought was said in the conversation last night, which was basically about the lieutenant came and spoke to Theo about us basically being taken out of their house and taken back to the station or something. I can't entirely remember. But essentially they didn't want us staying in that house. So I guess my thing to Gary would be like, we just want to ask simple questions, try and find information about, why they don't want us staying there, maybe what they feel about Theo and Catelyn. Just try and get a little bit of feel of the situation. And if anything else pops up that doesn't feel right to you, then we can address that too.
Break his legs.
No.
So Gary wants to know if he can play bad cop.
Do you know what I've learned, Gary, in my many months of travelling through this land, is that it's really bad to play bad cop against a cop.
That makes sense.
So maybe let's...
I can be very subtle and,
Yeah.
Oh,
that's why I brought you, Gary, because I know that you can... You're the most subtle man over them. But I need you here to look after me, for one thing. And also because, you're very easy to talk to. So people open up to you.
Oh, well, it's nice.
Is Nyla being sarcastic?
No, not at all. Nyla loves Gary so much.
Oh, no, I know that. I figured it was still worth asking.
And also he
Both
felt
are
sad
true.
he wasn't on an adventure.
All right, well, I'll let you spearhead this one if I need to jump in and just give me the nod.
If anything
But,
just doesn't feel right, I mean, you know more about this outside world than I do, right? I come from the forest. I don't
Sure.
know much about how this world works, so if anything just doesn't feel right, or anything's just... But he's spent more time with humans than I have. Like,
That's true.
I don't know humans at all, really, apart from you guys. And only
We're
one of
assholes.
you is a human. Yeah, I met Elias, and she's not exactly the best example of a human.
No.
Not because he's a bit weird. So yeah, I will defer to Garry if I'm not sure about protocol, etc. I guess.
Cool. Yeah, no worries.
Cool. Yeah. So you head on in and you go upstairs and you kind of knock. Do you knock or do you just go
No,
in? Or...
knock. I was brought up well.
So yeah, you knock on the door and
Hang on, let me role play that for
there's
you,
no
Jack.
response for a moment. Hi everyone, hope you're all enjoying the episode. I really enjoy the stuff the guys get up to in Bridgeton, and you're actually going to meet one of my favourite characters, which is the Lieutenant. He was really fun to play against Nyla and Garri. He's coming up after this, so look forward to him. I think it's just really fun to play. A quick note on the competition winner character that I mentioned last time. They're actually not in this episode, as it turns out. It's going to be the next one. Originally, this was going to be one long episode, but I figured bit better to have two kind of 2-ish hour long episodes rather than one 4-hour long one. So that's next time. So sorry to keep you waiting, but you have to wait a bit longer. Speaking of the next episode, actually, the next one is coming out to you on the 24th of July, which actually, fun fact for you guys, is almost exactly a year after we recorded our first episode. So we've been doing this for a year now. Obviously, you've been listening to the first 6 months, but yeah, it's been really fun and we've really enjoyed it. So I hope you've been enjoying it as well. And there's plenty more to come until the end of what we're referring to as this chapter. As always, we would really love to hear from all of our listeners. So I'm going to ask you yet again to come find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Use hashtag Nancast if you're talking about us. And we actually have a new and improved website as well that I'd really love for you to go and look at, which is nothingadventured, links are on our Facebook and Instagram, so go have a look at that. I'm quite happy with how it looks, and yeah, any feedback would be appreciated. But that's everything from me this week, so I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. I hope you enjoyed what you listened to so far. Stay safe. See you later. There's no response for a moment, and then you kind of hear a commotion, and go in.
I'll look at Garry and I'll smile and I'll walk in confidently.
Cool.
And I want to.
I'll do the same.
Yeah, let's do this, Garry. We can do this.
We can do
We
this.
can do it. And then I will look for the guy that I saw last night.
Yeah, there's only one man in there, and it is the man you saw last night.
Fabulous.
As luck would have
Perfect.
it.
In which case, I'll walk over. I will have taken my hood down, so I'm obviously in elven form. That seems weird. But I will elf mode inactivated. I'll walk over with my hand like outstretched and just introduce myself. Like, hello, my name's Nyla. This is my friend Garry. I imagine you have been made aware that we're in your lovely city.
Yeah. Hi. Kind of shakes your hand. He looks a bit like he was asleep.
Snoozing on the
he
job,
kind of is
mate.
a bit... I just close my eyes for a second.
Oh,
it's a bit
get it.
boring here at the moment.
I understand, mate. We've all been there, haven't we?
Yeah, mate. Sorry, what did you want? Yeah, and I know who you are.
Yeah. Sorry. First of all, would I be able to have your name and badge number?
Oh yeah, it's Tony.
Lieutenant Tony?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fabulous. So as I said, I'm Nyla. We're here with the magic user that was sent to try and help, Elias.
Yeah. I heard.
I just wondered if we could ask you a few questions about the situation and a little bit about the people we're staying with. I had to admit that while I was taking my pet for his evening stroll before we go to bed, I saw you talking to Theo.
He looks like you see like a flash of concern, and then he like regains composure again. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I did pop around the house yesterday. We were just wanting to make sure that you had the space, or they had the space to keep you at the Macario place, because obviously didn't want to get in the way of Caitlin's work, because it's obviously very important."
Well, they've been nothing but very good to us, haven't they, Garri? They've been amazing hosts.
Oh, they've been very nice. And I pull out a pastry that I snuck into my pocket. It's like, yeah, it's a good grub. Yeah, lovely it is.
Well, yes, I'm glad to hear it. Obviously, it's a big house, but some people might feel a bit weird about staying in a house where, several people died recently.
Yeah, we didn't.
So that was our main concern.
I mean, it wasn't something we were hugely aware of when we were sent there, but it still, it seems like the house seems safe. I mean, if your magic user is staying there, then I would imagine that she feels that there's no problem with us. There's no danger to us. Right?
Yeah, I mean, probably, yeah. Caitlin's a bit of a weirdo, to be honest. I mean, she's a bit odd. Her tower is not accessible at the moment. I say tower, house isn't accessible at the moment. Excuse me. So she'd just stay in there because it was the only empty house in the east. In the east. No, it is in the east. Yeah. Sorry, I'm bad at directions.
It's fine. We're still trying to orientate ourselves here as well. It's a very large place.
It is. Yeah.
Did
You
you?
been to the market yet?
No, we haven't. We're just finding our
Nice.
feet.
It's nice. If you do go to the market, go see Earl.
Oh.
Best jerky in town.
Oh. That sounds great.
It's a top tip for you, that is.
Well, I do.
He's my uncle.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we'll tell him you say hello, I would imagine.
I always like to
Oh,
support
thanks.
local businesses. Did you know the family that lived in the big house?
The Macarios. Everybody knew the Macarios. They were the family that founded this town.
And they were the first ones to get the illness, weren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bit weird, isn't it?
So we heard that
It's a
it was
shame.
their son that got sick first.
Yeah. It was Bailey.
Bailey. I don't suppose anyone knows where he contracted this illness from. I mean, it's kind of a strange thing for a young man to contract something. I hear he was quite a sickly boy anyway, and didn't really go out very much.
Oh, he was. Give me. Just have a look at the skills. Give me.
I'm ready, Jack. Got my dice.
Sorry. To find what the skills are. I can never bloody find them in the right time when I need them. Is this them here? Yeah, here it is. Give me persuasion, I suppose. Just because you're kind of being like, I suppose you're trying to get more information out of him.
Ooh, I'm not a charismatic girl, Jack, but that's a 7, which is a success.
Nice. He'll kind of like look around the empty office, and then kind of lean in conspiratorially and say, right, so one of my mates, he is a bit of a mercenary type, and he used to do some work for the Macarios. And one of the things that he did recently, I mean, I say recently, he's been doing this for months, ever since Bailey got sick. Essentially, Peter Macario, the head of the house, he pays Thomas, my mate, absolutely ridiculous amounts to travel to various places where he's heard rumours that there might be like cures and healers and stuff. And Thomas came back, or he was supposed to come back. I haven't seen him, but when he left last time, he was supposed to come back around the time that Bailey died. So my assumption, and I've said this to the captain of the guard, but he won't listen to me because he's saying that it's all hearsay and I can't be using it as evidence or whatever. Basically, what I'm saying is that I reckon that something that that Thomas found, is what caused the sickness. I think he brought it back with him. That's what I think.
And I don't suppose you...
But no one listens to me. I'm only a lieutenant.
Was it like a herb or something? Was it? Did he mention?
Don't know.
That's really interesting.
All I know is that he went on one of these little explore mission quest type things for Peter Macario, and I haven't seen him since. But when he was supposed to come back, the reason why I know he was supposed to come back is because he's dating my sister, and she ain't seen him. And he said he was going to be back around now, and he isn't back. But he's normally pretty good with timings and stuff. You know, he travels a lot, so normally he gets back in the right sort of time. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, it's just one of them things, isn't it? I just think it's too big a coincidence to be a coincidence.
I don't suppose you know where the last place he was supposed to be going was.
Well, he always checks back in at the Macario place when he gets back.
But do you know where he was before he would have come back? Like, where did Peter send him?
Off east somewhere, I think he said. Into the East Hills. Some rumour about something. I don't know. I'm not interested, to be honest. I didn't ask the details.
You didn't... Well, I suppose you said that you tried to bring this up with your captain and he wasn't interested.
Oh, yeah, he didn't seem interested. He just cares about containing the plague. You know, stopping it from taking over the entire town and leaving us with everyone dead.
It's fair enough.
You know, in fairness, can't really argue with that.
Yeah, I can't argue with that, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
pretty solid.
But at the end of the day, it's not spreading anymore. So the person or whatever it was that caused it must have been taken care of somehow. The person who brought it into the city must have died, or town must have died, or something. Because it ain't, you know, we're not getting any new cases outside of the East Quarter. So,
would it be possible if you could tell us some places that Thomas liked to hang out, like bars, or maybe the address of your sister? I think it'd be very interesting to track this down.
Can I have your sister's address?
my sister actually died from the plague.
I'm so sorry.
Egg on
Gary's face.
But I mean, I used to live in the East Quarter as well. That's where my family's from. That's where Thomas's family's from. So all of his house and his bar and his local and stuff are all in the kind of quarantine area. So I don't know where you're going to go. Obviously, the market square is in the west, and he obviously would have gone there for his shopping and stuff. But and there's actually a shop saying that. There's a shop. If you go to West Quarter, right over by the wall, there's a little shop that does kind of like antiques and stuff, weird shit. They don't get much business apart from like travelling people. It's like all like oddities and stuff, you know.
Really?
What's the name of that place? I can't for the life of me think of it. Begins with an M. Some bloke's name begins with an M. Let me have a look. See if I've got it in my notes here somewhere.
Is this the Jack thing or a
Is
lieutenant
this Jack?
thing?
Or
Yeah.
How deep are we?
Peek behind. Take no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, right over by the west wall. If you head all the way down there, through the market, down the main kind of stretch, it gets a bit narrower, a bit, you know, less off the beaten track, if you will. A place called... I just fucking put my book down. I forgot a place called Borgov's Antiquities.
That doesn't belong
That's not
to
an
begin with
M.
an M, yeah.
No, it's not. I couldn't find an M one that I liked, so I used Borgov instead.
Antiquities. Well, when you say like oddities, you mean like skulls or more like conceptually
like old
disturbing
shit.
stuff.
Just like pots and stuff.
Oh.
Pots.
Yeah, like dwarven pots and like elven stuff, like chairs and things.
Oh, really?
It's like an antique shop, but like, I mean, nobody really has any interest about that. It normally sells stuff to like other places. You know, he like sells stuff to travellers and merchants and,
And
stuff.
I turned to Nyla and be like, "Oh, quite fun.
Yeah.
Should we go antiquing? Maybe we can buy Grandall like a dwarven pot.
Shall we decorate
Something
our
like a
flat
pot.
that we're definitely going to get together, Gary?
Our best friend flat.
Yeah, best friend flat.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go antiquing. The Borgov himself. I sorry, is it a man? I assume it's a man. Okay.
Yeah, Borgov, yeah.
Is he someone who is like well travelled? Is he human? Any information about him that we should know? That would...
He's just a human
Okay.
guy, old fellow. I think he used to be like a traveller in his youth, but he's like settled down now. But he used to just buy the stuff off of Thomas that Peter didn't want. So like Peter had a very specific kind of remit that he was interested in, and like where it is that he found stuff that he didn't like, he just used to flog it on to Borgov.
Excellent.
Oh, maybe Borgov's seen him.
Maybe.
We should head there next.
Maybe.
We should head there next then, I reckon.
Didn't think to visit him actually. Never thought to go there. Oh well. Well, if you're going to do it, let me know if you've seen
Oh
anything.
yeah, of course.
Cracking police work there. It's a pleasure. And I hold up my hand to shake his hand.
He shakes your hand as well.
I want to give him like a... No, I
So
don't.
bribe him.
Don't worry. No. Don't worry about it. Yeah. And yeah, I guess unless you got any more questions for him, Nyla.
Yeah, I'm gonna do
Gary's-
the Columbo thing, where I'm gonna start walking out.
Ah, don't say it. Don't
No,
say
I know,
it.
but I need to describe it. Otherwise, it's like we leave. But I just need to do it. So basically, I'll
Alright,
I'll
okay,
say yes.
so
It was lovely to meet you, Lieutenant. Thank you for all your help. We'll come back if we find anything.
Yeah, bye.
And I'll start walking to the door. And as Gary opens the door and I get there, I'm like, actually, one more thing, Lieutenant, if you wouldn't mind. I have got a little bit of a feeling that maybe some of the goals of our dear hosts may be at odds with each other. I don't suppose you know anything about how good their relationship is, or if there's some reason why maybe Catherine's work may be at odds with what I've forgotten his name.
Theo.
Theo's goals, maybe, or you know, do they work well together? Are they old friends? Do they have any disagreements?
Give me persuasion.
Oh no! Oh, that's a 10, which is my charisma. Does that pass?
Yeah.
He kind of looks a bit sheepish and he says, "Look, like it's no secret that them two don't get on, but like what Order Monk and Magic User do, like if in all the stories and all the tales I've ever heard, they're like prisoners to the Order, aren't they? So no one's really surprised. You know, Theo's a stand-up chap. He's all right, bit of a laugh, has a drink with us every now and again. Comes down to the old Swan Neck, and you know, and Catelyn, you know, she's been here for ages. She's been here for like what, you know, a few years now. She's always been a good help. You know, helps where she can. Set in like broken legs and stuff. She's a good kind of like you know, when we've got people from out of town that are causing problems, she's very good at like doing the whole "oh, I'm a magic user, fear me." Stop being misbehaving. If we can't, you know, get them to do that from you know the from the you know town guards sort of threats. But yeah, I mean they're not you know best mates, but I don't think that can be a thing between an Order Monk. It'd be like a dog and a cat getting on. It's madness.
Mass hysteria. But then you can't think of any particular argument that they've had about either the plague or about their work.
Not that I know of. Don't see much of them, to be honest. Normally they're kind of secluded away in their tower. Well, I say tower. It's called the Tower, their house, but
Okay, thank you so much. Oh, also, where is Catalin's house located? The tower.
East Wall.
Oh.
That's the reason why they're in the Macario place, because they can't be in the East Quarter. That's where we've quarantined everybody off to.
Thank you, Lieutenant. You've been so helpful.
Oh, well, thanks. Nice to feel useful.
And I'll give him like a really sweet smile, and then I will leave with Garri.
Yeah.
He blushes a little bit and kind of twists the wedding ring on his finger.
Yeah.
Nervously, and then you kind of go, and he kind of closes the door behind you, and you kind of hear very faint him like chuckling to himself as you walk
I
away.
got flirted with by an elf.
Yeah. Cool. So you can make it to Borgov's Antiques. So the sign looks a bit older and a bit worn. There's two big bay windows either side of a door with like glass in it. The bay windows are kind of old and kind of very like they're really old glass. They're like kind of the individual panes. You know when I say, sorry, let me just.
Yeah, it's kind of like
So the
rough glass.
the bay window, rather than a big panes of glass, it's like 8 pieces of glass with the kind of like individual panes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Making up in sections that make up the bay window, and it's all kind of dusty, kind of murky. You can't really see through the window that much, but what you can see is that the window is literally like completely packed. Both windows on either side are completely packed with stuff. Like you can't really see what the stuff is because the windows are hard to look through, but there's like chairs and tables and cabinets and all sorts of stuff. Just kind of in the window, and it looks like the whole shop is like that. You can see through the glass of the door, and it's like one of those antique shops where there's a small path to the far end of the shop, and then either side of it are just it's basically almost like a wall of cabinets, and like you kind of have to shuffle round carefully where a table's been put just kind of into the path. You know the kind of I mean? It's like
It's
almost
a hoarder's
like
house.
jam-packed full of stuff. Yeah, kind of.
Be dull.
Yeah. And you can go on, and if you want it, there's a sign that says open on the glass.
So you can't read it because I'll turn to Garri and I'll say, "How about you take the lead on this one, Garri, and I'll jump in if we need to." Yeah. Also,
Yeah,
keep your arms to yourself. Don't touch anything.
All right then. All right. Well, I kind of open the door, head on in.
Cool. You open the door and you kind of go into this. As I said, it's a very kind of dimly lit, kind of gloomy room, just filled to the brim with furniture, and on the furniture is kind of various things like pots, vases, like little statues, and like necklaces on little stands. Like all sorts of things. It kind of looks like the Room of Requirement in Harry Potter.
Right.
If you've seen that. So there's just like piles of stuff, like just filling this not huge shop, and this kind of path kind of winds in a relatively straight line, like towards the far end of the shop, where you can see what looks like probably one of the only lights. And it's a kind of candle on the counter, and there are kind of candle sconces on the walls, like behind the kind of piles of furniture. So that's how the kind of why it's so dimly lit in here, because it's kind of shadows being cast in all directions. And behind this kind of counter is an aged man, kind of bald head with the tufts of hair on the sides, little tuft of grey hair on his chin. And he has a pair of spectacles on the end of a long, crooked nose. And as you come in, he looks up and smiles a kind of toothy grin with maybe 3 or 4 teeth in it. and says, "Hello, welcome. Come on in. Welcome to Borgov's Antiquities. I'm Borgov, as you may have guessed. Yes. Look around. Is there anything particular that you're looking for today? I have lots of different oddities and oddments from all over the world. The Scorn gentleman yourself might be interested in some of our Scorn antiquities, which are actually towards this end of the shop on the left here.
Oh.
We have some tribal necklaces, some old weaponry that we believe the Scorn may have used many years ago, all sorts of things. There's even some stuff from before the fall towards the right-hand side of the shop, nearer the front. We have many kinds of things in this shop. Please feel free to browse. If you wanted to get anything out of one of the cabinets, let me know. They are all locked. I will bring my key along and let you into them and let you have a look at it a bit closer. And he kind of jangles this absolutely ridiculous, massive bunch of keys, but all the keys are tiny because they're obviously like cabinet keys, except for one, which is just a huge iron key, which you think probably is the front door.
Oh, well.
And he says, just look around.
Oh, thank you very much. Have you got anything like dwarven?
Dwarves are generally towards the front of the shop in the bay window on the right of the door.
Oh, I see it. I want to start browsing for a little bit. I'm going to have a little poke around, touch some stuff,
Is there any elven stuff, Jack?
You give me deception. Give me perception.
Give me deception. I'm going to sneak my way.
You're lying.
Perception. No, that's a fail.
Not that you can see.
I could just ask him. I don't want to draw attention to myself.
I can't imagine if there are. It's any great secret. You could probably just ask him.
Sure, I'll just say any elven things. I'll be hiding my ears and stuff at this point, but.
Oh, yes, young lady. If you come towards this end, it's on the right of me. There's a section, 2 cabinets against the far wall.
Yeah, I'll have a browse through those.
What sort of dwarven stuff do they have?
There's a couple of big dwarven kind of earthenware pots. There's a couple of hammers, and then most of it is kind of based on the fact that he's told you it's dwarven-styled jewellery.
Right. Okay.
So lots of like big chunky chains and like how best to describe it, like lots of like chunky chains with like things hanging off like pendants, and the pendants are like hammers and axes and shields and stuff. And then there's a couple of like ornate looking like chests, which are like carved wood with like iron banding on them, which is what kind of most of the stuff is stood on. And then in the back of the bay window there is a cabinet. In that cabinet there is some very expensive looking jewelry of the same style, but kind of gem embedded. Like there's like rubies and sapphires in set into the pendants.
Is there any prices?
No, there's no prices on anything in the shop.
And when you say hammer, are we talking like warhammer?
Yeah. There's a maul-sized hammer, and then there's a kind of more like a throwing hammer, I suppose, like smaller, lighter affair.
Throwing hammer.
Still heavy, obviously, but like
Do you reckon Grandall like a hammer, Nyla?
He's not really a hammer guy. More of a.
Of course he is. He's a dwarf. They love hammers.
Yeah, but he's more of a knife.
And Borgov will go, dwarves do love hammers. It is a known
But
fact.
So he knows.
He likes fancy daggers and alcohol.
If fancy daggers are what you're looking for, you should check the before the fall section onto just next to the elves, actually, where you are there.
Ooh. Sounds
I'll have a look at that.
expensive.
Yeah, it
That
does.
sounds expensive.
What kind of elf
Anything-
stuff is there?
Yeah, go on.
So yeah, the elf stuff, there is some actually really exquisite examples of elven jewelry. One of them is like a torque. It's very similar to the style of the one that Wise Swan
Okay.
wears. but rather than the sun and moon on the kind of pieces that rest on the collarbone, it is a pair of leaves, like ivy leaves. And you think that actually might be from one of the Western families who are kind of, as you're the moth, they are ivy essentially. So you think it actually might be a piece of their family, kind of with their family crest on it. And then there's a couple of other instances of, excuse me.
Sorry.
There's a couple of other instances of some weaponry. There's some kind of there's a really nice curved sword with a kind of ornate scabbard, which is a kind of ceremonial sword, that's kind of useless for fighting with, but would be used during some of the rites, like during the autumn turning leaves festival and in the spring as well. Kind of more used to direct energy during ceremonies rather than and weddings and things, rather than actually fighting with. And then there's also a scimitar, which is definitely a fighting sword, and looks in relatively good nick. The wood of the handle has kind of fallen off and has been replaced by a leather banding that's been wrapped around a load, so it's not in that good condition in terms of that, but the blade itself looks pretty good.
I'm just gonna take it all in. Go for it, Gary.
I'm gonna look at the fancy daggers. I want to get Grandall a present.
Aww.
This is my mission for this little shot. It's one. That's mission B of this shop trip. I mean,
Side
do
quest.
they look? Absolutely. Do they look magical? Heck?
Give me a detect magic check. So give me a single check.
Perception.
Which is
Intelligence or perception?
Perception.
Perception. I can do perception.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
It's a great success. That was a 4.
There is one dagger that you think vaguely gives you tingles that remind you of your broadsword.
Okay.
Your greatsword, sorry.
I will call Borgoff over. Oh,
Yes. He stands up and is basically like a right angle. And he has a cane, and he kind of hobbles over to you with his big thing of keys. He kind of holds the keys in the same hand as the cane, so they kind of just annoyingly jangle against it as he walks. And he comes over to you. Yes, boy. What is it I can help you with?
this one here. How much for this one?
He kind of rearranges his glasses on the end, and he goes, I will have to check my ledger. And he kind of opens the case it's in and takes it out and says, come with me. And he heads back towards the desk, where there is a absolutely colossal leather bound ledger. It takes up most of the desk. You didn't notice it before because you hadn't really approached it.
Right.
But it's just in the tiniest writing. There is just across the entire page, there is notes of listings essentially. It's almost like an auction house ledger. Listings of how much he bought it for, how much he sold it for, when it was he sold it. And it's and marks, line things with crosses through them, and then little notes and stuff. But it's obviously his big ledger. And he places the dagger on the side and says, let's have a look. And he starts flicking through pages, and he says, you can have a closer look if you would like whilst I look at this. And he kind of flips the book through to a section that's kind of clearly daggers, and starts looking through the descriptions for the one that matches.
Okay. What's the dagger look like?
The dagger looks like it's made of bronze. The blade is bronze.
Okay.
It is bladed on both edges. It's a kind of pointy dagger with comes to a really thin point. It's quite long. It's almost like a what's the terminology?
Stiletto.
I want to say a widow something.
Stiletto.
Yeah, maybe.
long and
It's
thin.
It's quite thick at the base, but tapers.
Yeah,
And it goes on for
stiletto.
quite a long
Yeah,
way.
stiletto. I know knives.
Yeah.
Well done. I'm very
Thanks.
impressed. And with like a what's that thing, like the groove down the middle of one side?
Ah, there is a name for that.
It's like the blood well or something, like something like that.
Ah, no.
But that's what it's for. And then the handle is made of the same metal, like the hilt is made of the same metal, and then the actual like handle is like bone or ivory or some sort of fuller.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like bone or ivory is what the handle's made out of, and it's got some kind of like very delicate carving around it of just like seemingly random patterns, but have clearly been faded to kind of, they've almost been like worn away over time, where it's been used and handled a lot.
Cool.
And as you kind of finish looking at that, Borgov gets to the places. Yes, I think it's this one. Bronze dagger with ivory or bone handle inlet. Yes, that's the one. So this one would be 18 gold.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, no worries at all. You know, that's such a good deal. Thomas did say that you did give really good prices in here. I think I was right to come here, and I'll put on 18 gold on the desk.
Cool. He's kind of surprised by the fact that you just plonk 18 gold on the desk, to be honest, because he well, also that's quite a lot of money.
That's very smart, man.
And he goes, "Oh well, pleasure doing business with you." And he kind of sweeps the gold off of the table into a drawer that he pulls out and then closes again. And then he makes a note next to the like the line in the ledger, 18 gold, and says, and then you notice he writes half scorn, like next to it.
Bit weird.
And he goes, "Oh, pleasure doing business. Feel free to continue to look around.
Oh, okay.
There's all sorts of stuff going on here. I haven't seen Thomas in a while. How is he?"
I was just going to ask you the same thing, to be honest with you. I haven't seen him.
Oh, I haven't seen him in maybe a month.
Oh, right. What was he like saying the last time you saw him?
Give me persuasion.
I don't have that.
Just give me a charisma check then.
Still not great. No. 11. I needed 10.
He'll say, well, just the usual, really. He's always off gallivanting about somewhere, isn't he? How did you say you knew him again?
He works for the big family in town, doesn't he?
The Macarios.
The Macarios, that's right.
Yes, yeah, he does, yeah, most of the time.
Yeah, that's right. We've done a couple of jobs for him in the past. Thomas, he was a real good laugh. I always really liked him. He's real fun to be around, and I miss him, if I'm honest.
Yeah, he was a good lad.
Yeah.
Shame about his missus as well.
Yeah, it's all very tragic stuff, isn't it? You keeping well? You keeping nice and healthy in that?
Yes, they're staying away as far as I can from the East Quarter.
Yeah.
I'm staying away as far as I can from the East Quarter.
You heard any rumours about what's going on? Any juicy gossip?
The only thing that I have heard that I shouldn't say, but I will, is that supposedly one of the Macario kids is still alive in the East Quarter.
Really? Which one?
Esther, the middle child.
Interesting. Who told you that then?
Who told me that?
Is it just one of them mate of a mate
Rumor
told
I
a
heard
mate?
from town. Yes. I think someone said that they heard from Margot before she died.
Margot. Do you think they would know where Thomas is?
Oh well, Margot's died.
Oh. Seems to be happening a lot.
I think that
recently.
Stefan might still be alive, though, if I've heard correctly.
Oh, interesting. So I'm just writing notes. Nyla, you finding any nice elven stuff over there?
A few pieces which look to be of lovely quality. I wondered where you acquired such lovely pieces.
Oh, they come across from Port Alden most of the time.
Okay. So speaking of Thomas, like, what kind of things did he bring you?
Oh, all sorts, really. This and that. Most of the stuff was kind of... a lot of the stuff, actually, in the Before the Fall section... actually, let me have a look. And he kind of looks down and says, that knife, actually, that you just bought was brought in by Thomas 6 months ago.
Oh, really?
What a coincidence.
Yeah, it's all kind of quasi-magical, the stuff that he brings in. Stuff that, has, like, runes or inscriptions on it. He always seems to be able to find pre-fall kind of magi-adjacent items.
So before the last time you saw him, a month ago, right? Did he mention where he was heading next?
You're going to have to give me persuasion this time.
No.
Come on, Vex. One of us has got to do it.
Not Grandall. Gary's already tried that.
Oh, did he? Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you.
It's right. I mean, you were obviously in
Yeah,
part of the shop, so...
Thank you for giving me an in-game reason, not just because I'm not listening. I'm going to use my re-roll because that was a 19. Is that allowed?
Yeah, you could use reroll whatever you want.
Cool. That's
Choose
better.
reroll.
That's an 8. And my charisma is 10. Samson, get off my keyboard. Sorry, my cat is trying to walk across my computer. Go away.
So what was it you asked? Sorry, where said he was going?
Yeah, before the last time you saw him.
Well, apparently he had a lead on some laboratory in the East Hills.
What kind of lab?
Well, knowing Thomas, probably something to do with magic users. That's all he ever seemed to be looking for. Word on the street something Thomas told me, was that Peter Macario, had a bit of an obsession with magic users.
Oh, interesting.
Thought that maybe something from Before the Fall, something the Magi had, when healing magic was still a thing, maybe that could, heal his boy, Bailey.
Interesting. Did he tell you where this place was, precisely?
Just out in the East Hills, that's all I know.
All right, okay.
The East Hills are absolutely, they're almost as bad as the Hollow Range. Dwarven complexes through the whole thing. There's a couple of villages abandoned. There was a really nasty outbreak of carrion plague in one of the villages, maybe 8-9 years ago. Wiped it out completely, apparently.
Right.
Very interesting. Changing tact a little, if you don't mind, Gary, me asking a couple of questions.
No, not at all.
Are you aware of Catelyn?
Oh yes, Catelyn and I go way back. As soon as she came here, she became one of my best customers.
Oh, I can imagine. And, obviously she's a magic user herself. She must have interest in lots of your stock. It all was very interesting. So what kind?
Basically, anything she thinks might be even remotely magical, she buys instantly.
And her order monk.
Oh,
Theo.
Yeah.
Do you know him well?
Not as well. Obviously, he normally comes with her when they visit him, but he's cost me almost as much over the years in broken merchandise as she has spent here.
Really?
Never known an order monk be so bloody clumsy.
Oh, that's very unfortunate. I mean, he's we know him a little. He seems like quite a put together young man. Young man? I don't know how old he is.
I feel like the sentence I would use to describe Theo in the interactions I've had with him would be frustratingly chipper.
Nyla nods.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I get it.
Oh, well, is there anything else that catches your eye, Gary?
Well, while you were talking,
Mhm.
I just want to have a quick scan around, Jack, and with my detect magic sense. Let's see if I can pick anything else up.
Yep, give me that roll.
Just perception, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I rolled a 12, and I need to get below a 14, so it's just a normal, everyday success.
So you don't get any tingles from anything really other than the dagger you've got on your sword.
Mm-hmm. Cool. No worries. I want to pick up a scorn necklace. Just, I don't know, I think looks cool.
There actually is a scorn necklace that is very similar to the one that you found during the Battle of the Windmill.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's about 6 or 7 scorn necklaces. There's that one, which again, as I say, resembles kind of like the dancing flame.
Uh-huh.
There's one which is kind of it's like a rope with it's a pendant. It's not really a pendant. It's just a carved boar tusk.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, the carving on it is like kind of very rudimentary, but
It's kind of like Scrimshaw.
Obviously, yeah, exactly. But it kind of depicts a very kind of rough, almost like caveman drawing kind of level of detail of a boar hunt, kind of just going round it, or down the length of it, rather.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I will. To be honest, I'd be more drawn to that than anything else. So I'll pick that up, and I don't know. I'll pick Elias up something pretty, maybe like an elven ring. Everyone's getting presents.
So there's a couple of elven rings. There's one which is like a what's the word? It's a signet ring with like the kind of almost like a seal on it.
Okay.
Sovereign, that's the word. I knew it wasn't right when I said it. It's like a sovereign ring with like a seal on it. And the crest is crossed swords with vines like kind of holding them together. And the other is a silver ring with a green gemstone set in it, which looks like it would go on maybe like your index finger. I think his, because your hands are much bigger.
Yeah. I'll pick up the green stone one, and I will also pick up a daintier one secretly. Not secretly from the shop owner.
Yeah, no, I know, from Nyla. Yeah,
but from Nyla. And
so you want both of those 2 rings then?
Yes. Sorry to break the flow of the.
No, it's fine. While
No,
Gary's
that's okay.
surreptitiously
get that out of
buying
the way.
our engagement rings, we talked about this, Mark. We can't keep flirting in games. It's bad.
People will talk.
I'm gonna talk to I keep forgetting his name, Borgov, and say, so I've got an interest in elven antiquities. I see you have a few of them. I wondered if you've ever heard of anything called a Loki Sabbat.
Loki Sabbat. That would be, if my elven is any good, a promise? A promise keeper? Is that right?
Heart, I think it translates as.
Oh, heart. Oh, okay.
No, that's fine. I'm impressed you know so much.
Well, only a bit of elven here and there from my days as a traveller in my youth. I visited the gatehouse of the elves once. I petitioned to be let in to walk the forest, but unfortunately was turned away.
Oh, a shame.
Which was a great shame. Yes, the same thing happened to me with the at the great entrance to the Hollow Range as well. I longed to walk the footsteps of other races, the older races, but at every instance I was turned away. The only place I ever got anything, got the chance to kind of involve myself in another culture was on the Autumn Isle, where the homeland of the halflings. They were greeted me with open arms, and I stayed there for many years.
Oh wow! Well, you certainly seem like you like to travel, but you've never
did.
heard of Loki Sabat.
No, I've never heard of anything like that. Tell you what, though, if you're interested in elven antiquity particularly, are you? I mean, obviously, at the moment we're in lockdown and we won't be able to get out of this bloody town until probably everyone in the East Quarter is unfortunately passed. But when we are free, are you planning on heading north to the city?
Yes, that was our plan.
I have a contact there who specialises in elven antiquity. A magic user of some renown. Tackets, his name is. He knows basically everything there is to
I
know.
started writing it down
elves.
and then threw down my pen.
Is that in character?
No. This is better.
He is. He's a magic user. Very nice. Not like Catelyn. He's always very pleasant and polite in our correspondences. I really would love to be able to get to the city again to see him. We've met a few times for tea. He's a lovely chap. But yes, look him up when you get to the city if you're heading there, because he there's not something about if he doesn't know about it. It's probably not worth knowing in terms of the.
I
elves,
can
at least.
almost guarantee you that I will do that when I get to the city.
Oh well, good. Mention my name. He said I said hello.
Oh, of course. I'll let Garri make his purchase.
He kind of looks at the stuff you've got and just says, 5 gold for the lot.
Mark is muted. We can't hear him.
Sorry, my apologies. Nice one, yeah. Yeah, sweet. Ideal. Nice one. Well, it's a
You
pleasure.
get the impression from that stuff you got wasn't what he considered to be valuable.
That's fine.
Well,
yeah.
thank
cool.
you very much, Borgov. It was an absolute pleasure. I'm sure we'll come back. We've got other friends who are very interested in antiquities.
Oh, well,
But have a pleasant day.
and you, my dear, and you.
Yeah, nice to meet you, mate. And I'll head out.
Yes, and you. It's not every day that a half-scorn fellow comes into my shop and buys a load of stuff. Thank you very much. You've made my
Nyla's
day
gonna
much more
knowing
profitable.
smile her way
enjoyable.
out of the out of the thing.